Hey guys, welcome back to another Lore Olympus video. I am Dazzling Kate, and today we're going to be talking about Hades' problem. Now, some people don't want to acknowledge that Hades is, problematic in his own way. They try to excuse his behavior with other things like, oh, he's Persephone's boyfriend, he protects her from all things evil, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah, look at him beating the shit out of one guy because he loves Persephone so much, blah 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 blah. Oh, look, he's being an asshole because he feels like being an asshole. Ain't that sweet? Yes, there's a lot of problems with Hades, and today's episode will only be focusing on his relationship with Minthe and his relationship with Persephone, as they are drastically different from one another, but it still holds kind of a similarity, with like one similarity that kind of keeps them both there, if that makes sense. So let's, grab our drinks, grab your popcorn. This might be a bit of a long one. So, from the very beginning, his relationship with Minthe has always been toxic, not just from Minthe, but from Hades. And this is like something people don't want to really look into because, Minthe did this to Persephone, Minthe did that to Persephone, Minthe did this, Minthe did that. But then they don't want to acknowledge that during their relationship before Persephone was introduced, Hades and her were always toxic in that sort of sense because it felt like, he held all the keys above her head. He held all the cards above her head. He had everything held above her, and of course, she feels threatened if he were to dump her. He would take everything away from her, her job, her, her her apartment, everything. And he just kind of like, it's just so, it's actually so sad that we like to think about, like, I know Menthe is a seen as a bad character to some people who don't really care for her. That's totally fine, and I might be talking from a bias here. I do find her character to be more relatable and connectable. Like, if that makes sense, she's more emotionally there than Hades is. I think that's one of the toxic things I've noticed. Like Hades, he just buys her whatever he thinks will keep her with him, like apartment, give her a job, and get a designer new bag every month or so, and he just kind of just buys her stuff and expects that to connect them. I mean, it's just there for him to like basically be like, oh well, I can just buy love in that kind of sense. And yeah, she does ask for stuff. I think to me it's mostly to avoid the discussion of, you know, where do they stand exactly? But then again, Hades hasn't exactly been bringing that up either. It's kind of like, where do we stand in this? And I think that's the problem in Menthe's and Hades' relationship that is slowly being brought into Persephone and Hades' relationship, which is like, where do we stand? Who are we? We're not even official on Facebook. Like that. That's what was going on with like Menthe and Hades. They weren't even official on Facebook, and it's just like she isn't even sure if she wants this or not. She will, keep dating him and such, but Hades just brings him. I feel like this is kind of something I've noticed. Hades mostly tries to, like, if it ever feels like the relationship is in a toxic place, he will try and buy her. He will try and buy whatever he can to keep her with him because he doesn't want to be alone, which meant they reluctantly goes with parts of the time. And other parts of the time, she's like, she does appreciate the gifts or she doesn't really care, if that makes sense. I know, guys. I'm so disorganized with all this, but I promise it will make more sense in the upcoming parts of this video. So, let's take it back to when Hades was about to propose to Minthe, and that was during episode 1, where he is looking forward to being engaged with her, and he's planning on proposing to her. And it's later found out that meant they discovered the ring and didn't want to go because of finding the ring in his jacket, and she knew what he was going to do and decided not to do it because his plan was to basically propose to her in front of everyone at a huge party where almost everyone they knew were there. You know, all the gods and goddesses and everyone else who was important at the party. So of course Menthe has to like not go, because if she does, then Hades will propose to her, and she isn't ready for that. She doesn't think she's ready. She's got all this baggage of not sure where she wants to go with this exactly, and Hades just keeps giving her stuff, and it's just that cycle of repetitiveness that we later see in Persephone and Hades' relationship. Now we'll get to that in a few minutes, as there is that one connection I've just noticed like a while back ago, was Hades literally doesn't bring up marriage or, the idea of moving in together, that kind of thing, to Menthe or Persephone. Like, he doesn't tell them what he's ready for. It's like they're disconnected. They're supposed to sit down and chat. He doesn't do that with Menthe. Like, there is more evidence put into this, because yeah, I'm sorry, like, if it's like disconnected right now, I'm trying my best to like organize this in a sense where everyone can follow with me. But yeah, he doesn't bring it up to Menthe that he wants to take it to the next level, and she isn't aware of that until, like, days prior, before the party. She finds that wedding ring, and it's just like, no, she can't. And he didn't even take the time to like sit down with her and ask her what they see in their future, and she's just like, she doesn't know anything about that. And he does the same thing with Persephone in a later story. Like, it's a more recent chapter that came out recently speaking, which was 216, where there is a crown waiting for Persephone to begin her rule of being queen of the underworld. It's interesting. That was pretty much something. I will tell you guys that. Anyways, he literally doesn't say a word about that. He doesn't bring it up to Menthe. She finds out on her own, and what do you guys think would, like, in a normal relationship like that, like, you find a ring from your partner to be, and you know what's gonna happen. Are you ready for it? Are you not ready for it? Like, you got to understand where these characters stand in this situation. Minthe clearly wasn't ready. She hasn't been given a chance to speak about what's on her mind, and that's the problem between Hades and Minthe, is that they didn't have enough communication to let the other know what they're ready for, what they're not ready for. That is a mistake on both parties. Yes, Minthe should have said something sooner. Yes, Hades should have spoken about it, but clearly that's the point where their relationship doesn't really have much going on, considering they do not have a communicative line to tell the other about, well, here's what's on my mind. They don't open up that door for that opportunity, and this does lead to another subject I feel connects to this. So, Hades has cheated on Menthe multiple times. If you've noticed, Hades has had a close relationship with Hera. He's, cheated on her, like, cheated with her on Menthe. Like, he just literally does that and doesn't say a word about it. And it's kind of a shame too, considering Hera is supposed to represent, marriage, and she was the opposite of, Zeus. And I know they can't be perfect, but that's one element of, like, the mythology that actually I was hoping would be different. But I guess, to be realistic, I know they would want to do a modern day where Hera just decides, yeah, you know what, fuck this, I'm gonna just cheat on Zeus. I mean, it's not that bad, but it's like, what the fudge? But okay, he has cheated on her with Menthe, physically, emotionally, and has cheated on her with Persephone emotionally. And he's never actually sat down with her to tell her, hey, yeah, this is what I'm feeling right now. They never open that door for the other. They just kind of keep it locked. They kind of just push it away and hope that none of them bring it up. And it leaves a confusing element of where do they stand? What is their relationship exactly? Where do they go from here? It's confusing because they don't open up that door. Like, are we boyfriend girlfriend now? Are we this or that? And I know that Hades decided to take it more seriously with they're not Persephone. Menthe, after realizing his feelings for Persephone, has gotten much more heavier on his chest. So he decides to try his best to be genuine and tries to fix it, but it doesn't go as well as you thought. But yeah, the reason why I think they never actually sat down, here's my little theory behind that, and we'll go into it. So this makes me think Hades was pulling Menthe along since he didn't want to be alone and only kept her till something better came. Now, this is definitely something I feel like is definitely I gotta stop saying definitely. But I do feel like this is genuinely true in the comic. I think that Hades was pulling Menthe along because he didn't want to end up alone. And since he doesn't, all other goddesses aren't that interested in him, he just kind of goes with the flow and just, well, he cuts it out. He just, like, he cuts out to the chase of finding something better. I mean, once, during that proposal, episode 1, when he first sees Persephone for the first time, that's something better that came along. Persephone is perceived better than Menthe since she came along, and getting to know her in some perspective, he just decides that things might not work well for him and Menthe now, but it's best to keep someone like Persephone close. Oh man, I'm kind of tired, but whatever. But yeah, there is other facts, well, ideas of what could have gone on in their relationship that might have pushed him. He isn't sure what he wanted for a while. Like, this is like maybe during the beginning and middle of his relationship with Menthe. He didn't know what he wanted, and oh yeah, sorry, I got lost track. But like he isn't sure what he wanted for a while, but decided during episode 1 for the party he finally proposed because he's given up on finding someone who will love him. Like, this is his breaking point because he's just pulling Menthe along to find a queen of the underworld, and it doesn't go as well as he thought. He didn't calculate that Menthe wouldn't actually show up. Also, another one is he figured out his needs but didn't communicate it with Menthe, and Menthe told him what she wanted, but he never sat down with her to tell her what he wanted, which is something I believe Menthe would have wanted. Now, this is another thing. I feel like he did figure it out later on when he's ready to propose. He wants to start, he wants a queen of the underworld, he wants a marriage, he wants kids in that little area. I mean, yeah, granted, he is infertile, but they could probably figure something out. But yeah, I feel like this is definitely another area where he definitely. Damn it, I keep saying definitely. Okay. He for sure pulled Menthe into the relationship to be kind of like a safety net. So if he ever found someone, attractive or intriguing to him, he would, dump Menthe and go for the next thing better, which, in this case, it's Persephone. And in that, it's just like, it feels like he's, like, he has all this stuff going on. He's, doing for Persephone, and it's just like, what the fudge? But yeah, it feels like Hades does sugar daddy Menthe and Persephone. Menthe, he, got her a job. He, you know, got her apartment. He basically kept bribing her with stuff to stay in the relationship. And, Persephone, she's an intern, just starting out, and, he decides to give her pay and, helping her with everything, like, starting a bank account, giving her information about specific things of being an employee for his company, just giving her extra information, getting closer to her, basically jumping up to the moon and back for Persephone. And it just, she could have asked someone else, like, Hades could have, probably pointed to Hecate, who, is connected to Persephone, and, told her, yeah, you just take her to the bank and get her informed of how these work. Like, he could have gotten anyone else than himself to be involved, because, yeah, it's not his job to fully educate Persephone on how money works, how the jobs work, how all this information works. He just kind of decides he's going to do everything he can to make her experience as an intern for his company, which, she should be doing shit on her own. He just does that. Like, what the fudge? Uh, but yeah, it just, he goes out of his way for her, even though he doesn't want to ruin his relationship with Minthe. But you know what? I feel like he's doing this unconsciously, and, eventually catches on. He doesn't care anymore. He wants to be with Persephone, and it just kind of misbalances there. And it feels like all that he does for Persephone is like 10 times higher than what he does for Minthe. It's like the level of finding a new thing and finding enjoyment out of it. Because again, like I said before, I do believe that Minthe was supposed to be a safety net for Hades, and since Persephone came along, which is a much better model for him to be with, he just kind of, decides, yeah, I'm going after her now. There's not much we can salvage from our relationship. It doesn't end well. It's kind of left into this area where, well, there's not much going on for the relationship, and he just leaves it like that. He doesn't try and fix things. Like, yes, he does try and fix things with Mente, but he doesn't try and make his relationship between him and Persephone known to her. It's just like, well, here's this, but, like, let me explain. Like I said before, a couple of good minutes ago, when I was bringing up that he doesn't establish anything with Mente, like, take a seat down and actually talk to her about where they stand in their relationship. He doesn't do that with Persephone, and they both love each other in a way, but like, like, he, at first tells Persephone he wants to take it slow, then he later tells her that, you know not her directly, but wants to push her into marriage right after the trial, right after, you know before he thought Zeus was going to banish her. Like, he thought she was going to finally be his wife, and, goes out of his way for her, and he doesn't even establish that with Persephone as much. It's, she wants something different. She wants to take things slow now and get to know him over time, but he directly wants to go straight into marriage, straight into her being his wife. It's it feels like he's holding all these cards of information. Like, he has this idea, okay, she can, like, I can buy this new piece of jewelry, or I can buy this for her, and she'll, love it. She'll agree to it. This is the mindset I think Hades has when it comes to his connection with Persephone and other romantic interests, is that he can bribe his way into keeping their feelings there for him. Which, yes, that's an interesting flaw. It's just, we don't see enough of that in a way where, Persephone is noticed. Persephone just kind of accepts Hades and just doesn't question why he goes above and beyond for her. And it's rather difficult to see how this relationship can continue if Hades doesn't, actually communicate what he wants, which is, marriage, kids. But yeah, I think that's all I have to really say. Like, he doesn't do as much communication between him and his lovers, and There is a lot more I could go on to about Hades' problem, but I think I can keep like keep his relationships with like his brothers, his like the other gods and goddesses in for another video, like a part 2 to this. What do you guys think? Do you think Hades is communicative with his, lovers, or do you think that's the huge problem of his character that nobody really wants to acknowledge or touch on because it feels very forced? But yeah, it's something. It's something. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and if you are new here, please hit that subscribe button. It means the world to me. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay cool or hydrated. I mean, warm. If it's cold where you're at, put your damn sweater on and stay hydrated. I will see you all in the next video. This is Dazzling Kate signing the hell out of here.